People love saying that snooker was better in the 80s, and I get it, that was my intro to snooker, but I actually don't think it was better. I think it might just have been easier to understand. Steve Davis was grinding people into dust, Alex Higgins was basically a rock star with a snooker queue, the Crucible was packed, the BBC was massive, everybody was watching snooker. And partly because snooker was brilliant, but also partly because there were 4 channels, and the alternatives was probably watching a documentary about badgers, or God forbid, talking to each other. So no disrespect, the old days were iconic, but I do think that we sometimes confuse 2 things: dominance and depth. Because when one player is dominating, it does tell you that that player is amazing, but it doesn't automatically mean that the whole sport is stronger. Sometimes it just means that one bloke was miles better than everyone else, and that's very impressive. Also a bit rude. Modern snooker feels different, it's messier, less predictable, it's harder to control, and I think that might be the point, because the numbers this season actually got really silly. We had 15 different event winners this season. 15, the most ever. That's not one person having a surprise run or an underdog getting hot for a week. That's half the tour looking at the trophy and going, yeah, go on then. And then look at the Crucible. 4 consecutive first-time world champions. That's never happened before. And people might say, but doesn't that prove that nobody's dominant? Yeah. Exactly. Nobody's dominant because there's too many players that are dangerous. That's not a standard problem, that's a nightmare problem, and technically the level is insane. 24 maximum breaks this season, that's a new record, and yes, the cloths are better, conditions help, fine, but how many 147s are you making down the local club with all this life-changing equipment? Exactly, the tables do not put the balls for you. Yet. That's coming with the next update in AI. And the class of 92 are still competing in this era as well. Ronnie O'Sullivan scoring a 153, John Higgins still competing against players that weren't even born when he won his first title, and Mark Williams lifting a trophy at the age of 50? That is ridiculous. So no, the old days weren't bad. The 80s gave snooker its personality, the 90s gave us ruthlessness and Stephen Hendry, and the class of 92 gave it its genius. But modern snooker has added depth. More winners, more countries, more maximums, and more players that can ruin your weekend. So maybe snooker wasn't better in the 80s, maybe it was just easier to understand. One king, one throne, one obvious story, and now nobody owns it. And honestly, I think that might be better.